Macon was one of the worst cities when it comes to pedestrians being killed or seriously injured.
We were like in the top 10% in the nation as far as losing people to vehicular deaths.
We have a real safety problem when it comes to our roads.
I've been here all my life. It's medium-sized town, very friendly, very historic, with lots of things to do that people sometimes take for granted.
I would describe Macon as a community that's just right. I mean, just right in so many areas of what a community could be.
I would say that Macon is a little gem. I moved here a little over 30 years ago, and the community that it was then and the community that it is now are two very different places.
There's a mix of rich history and a lot of new projects, new precedents that are being set here, and it's an exciting place to watch grow.
The original part of the city, the downtown area, is more human-centric, and then as the city grew and expanded after the invention of the automobile, infrastructure became more auto-centric and focusing on automobiles versus the human experience.
Just a quick backstory here. In the mid-1990s, Macon and Bibb County passed a SPLOST, a 1% sales tax, and it was dedicated for road improvements countywide. It was a big pile of money. It was over $300 million, and we did a lot of good things with it, but we did some things that, had we thought more about them and had more input from other transportation experts, we might have included more sidewalks and more bike lanes in some of those road projects, because if you don't build it in the first time, it's really hard to go back later and build it.
In the past several decades, almost all of our streets and roads have been funded and have been designed primarily to get cars where they need to go as fast as possible, as smoothly as possible, so other forms of transportation have not been the priority. And those are our big roads where you have a lot of lanes and you have a lot of cars, and cars can go as fast as they want to, and you see crosswalks that are spread out, about a half a mile apart or a whole mile apart. That's contributing to very unsafe conditions. We looked at some crashes for around the past 7 years, and it said 3 out of 4 of the fatal or dangerous crashes that are happening to pedestrians and bicyclists are happening on those bigger roads.
For a minute, Macon was one of the worst cities when it comes to pedestrians being killed or seriously injured.
There was a lack of leadership that was willing to take chances, leadership that wanted to provide for certain groups of people in the community, and then that left some other people behind. So now everybody's got to get caught up.
From 2019 to 2022, we had 301 pedestrians killed or seriously injured in those 4 years. And since 2022, and since that 4-year period, we've seen it trend downwards. So we know that we're improving. Last year, the numbers went down from the year before. It's going in the right direction. It's still not where we'd like it to be, but we are seeing improvements.
Well, people have to get around. They don't just stay in one place. They have to get around. They have to go to get things. They have to get to work. A large part of our population, as I said, they don't have transportation.
Transportation drives land use, because we want to make sure that we are developing a city that's equitable for everyone. That someone needs to get to the doctor if they do not have a car. So transportation, land use, planning and zoning, it goes hand in hand, because you want to look at creating more dense areas where someone who do not have a car can have access and can be able to get to those places, even if they have to walk or bike.
If you can get to something, you can do it. So it's more not living life about boundaries, living life without limitations.
Macon published a long-range transportation plan that said 1 in 3 people in Macon don't have a driver's license. So that means a whole third of our county was having to get around without a car. And you start learning more about Macon has higher poverty rates than the state of Georgia. It has higher poverty rates than the whole country.
Transportation in Macon is critical. I call it a lifeline. We serve primarily people who don't have a personal vehicle. And if you don't have a personal vehicle, when you need groceries, you go for dialysis, you go to the doctor, you want to visit family and friends, you want to go for a job interview or work, you need reliable, affordable public transportation. We are the first transit authority in the state of Georgia that had public transportation with electric buses. So we're constantly updating our routes, constantly working to make sure that we're filling the needs that people have to get around our city.
It's very important. And I'm a mother, and the bus has been such an amazing blessing, and it about make me cry.
It's like having food and shelter, a job that's rewarding. Transportation is one of those necessities.
So when you talk about the most public space in almost any community, it always is your road network. It's one of those things that when people get behind a wheel, they all of a sudden believe they're the most important person in the world. And so transportation is not just about the built infrastructure, but it's also about human tendencies. Young people end up dying the most is through car accidents. And so not only is it something that's impactful from a design aspect and an access and equity aspect, it's also one of those things that it has life and death implications with it.
I used to watch TV early in the morning, and this guy named Ron Wildman, who is a retired news person, he used to follow the pedestrian deaths. And he was saying, we've got too many people dying on our streets, too many people getting hit by cars. And so after following him, I decided, since I was on a lawmaking body, that I would introduce the legislation to create the Pedestrian Safety Review Board. And our main goal was to decrease the numbers of people who were getting killed. At that time, we were like in the top 10% in the nation as far as losing people to vehicular deaths.
One of the actions that they took was creating a Vision Zero action plan. That is 0 pedestrian fatalities by 2040.
Bike Walk Macon started in 2015. When I reflect back to 2015, it actually happened at this perfect time when the conversation was important and people were paying attention to it. At the same time, Macon-Bibb County started the Pedestrian Safety Review Board. So Macon had this very strong interest in reducing pedestrian fatalities. We found nothing but an embrace of this new crazy idea of why don't we try to build streets differently. We are the leading nonprofit organization in Macon-Bibb County, working to make Macon more bikeable and walkable.
With those two organizations, both Bike Walk Macon and the Macon-Bibb County Pedestrian Safety Review Board, I think Macon is on its way to becoming a safe place for everyone to move around the community.
Something Bike Walk Macon has spent a whole lot of time on is building a culture of biking and walking in a city that hasn't historically embraced biking and walking. So we've done that by hosting hundreds and hundreds of events and classes for people of every single age, every single skill level.
This is Rudy. Rudy is the education manager over at Bike Walk Macon.
Well, our mission is to make the streets safe for cyclists and pedestrians and motor vehicles. And our goal is to educate the community.
What does the C stand for in the ABC quick check? Chain, right? And so you want to make an observation of your chain. You want to make sure that there's no debris in here.
And the more people we have on bikes, and if they're using bikes properly, it makes the streets safer for cyclists and motorists. And I just want more people to enjoy the freedom of being on a bike, right? It's a lot different when you're driving around in a car. You can't experience the world the same way as if you're riding a bike. And by seeing more people enjoying cycling, it makes me feel better, right?
I was given a list of resources, and on the transportation it said bicycles And I called a number and everyone was nice to me and they told me when to come, so I'm here.
I come across people who, when you say bicyclist or you say pedestrian, have one single image in their head, and having those different visions or ideas of what a bicyclist or what a pedestrian is has made it challenging at times to convince people of why it's important. Biking and walking isn't one single person. Biking and walking is everyone. Everybody's a pedestrian at some point, and even if you don't choose to bike or walk, you can have incredible benefits.
Pedestrians are needing adequate sidewalks to move from point A to point B, as well as the excitement that's generated around biking in the community.
One of the biggest tell signs of good transportation and a solid network and even a strong community is that you can access most of the things you need in life within 15 minutes.
Young people are choosing where they want to move before they choose what job they want. So having walkable communities helps people move here. It also is good for families. So families want to live in a place where their children are safe to bike and walk around their neighborhood. It's better for older adults. So older adults can have mobility challenges, may not be able to drive, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have the freedom to get around.
One of the biggest obstacles that we have is just our location in general. We are located in the center of the state. One of the good and bad things about being where we are is that we get a lot of people that come through Macon. The problem with that is that there's a lot of state routes.
Our state roads are a real problem. The numbers of cars and people that you have in the same place increases your likelihood of some accidents.
And those are roads that are supposed to be maintained and operated by the Department of Transportation. Well, they look like city streets.
And so there's state routes that go through downtown, state routes that go through East Macon, North Macon, South Macon. Every portion of Macon has some state route on it. And so what that does is it reduces the amount of design options that we have at the local level, what we call KSI, which is killed or seriously injured incidents. Oftentimes they're on GDOT roadways in Macon-Bibb County. It makes it difficult to really implement change quickly. So many of the roadways where we have the worst problems are just not in our immediate control.
Gray Highway Vineville is actually the state Department of Transportation's bike route into Macon, but I don't ride my bike on Vineville.
All right. Well, I've thought about this one a lot. It takes a certain level of thick skin, I think, to bike in Macon. I mean, I was run over once. I broke his windshield with my helmet, so by the way, always wear a helmet. And I got back on my bike and kept commuting that way. So it's not really a fear so much as maybe a resignation that there's still a chance I could get run over again, but the benefits far outweigh the problems.
This is the only bike lane on the road.
I like to just get out there and pedal.
In a city that has so many state highways and so many roads, makes it a little scary to be on a bike.
The higher the speed is that a car is going, the more you're at risk from dying in a car crash. If you're a pedestrian or if you're a bicyclist, if you're hit in a car going 25 miles an hour, it's very likely you're going to survive that. If you're hit by a car going 45 miles an hour, it's very likely you're going to die from that. And that doesn't seem like a huge jump when you're in a car, 20 miles, but it could be life or death when it comes to biking and walking. We have a real safety problem when it comes to our roads. Biking and walking commuters make up only about 2% of the means of commuting around Macon, but about 30% of the fatalities that happen in Macon are pedestrians and bicyclists. So pedestrians and bicyclists are dying at a higher rate than what they're representing in our commutes. So that's our very urgent need, is just to make it safer so that we don't have people dying. A challenge is changing the mindset of how do we design it differently? If we have funds, how do we make sure that all the funds aren't just dedicated to cars? How do we make sure everybody that's using the road has comfortable access?
I think really Pedestrian Safety Review Board was one of those things that made a difference, because our numbers are looking better. Our streets are safer. We intervene or at least have input when new road projects, roundabouts, and other things are being contemplated. It used to be they just put it in place and then tell you about it, but now Pedestrian Safety Review Board is consulted before projects actually are approved. And so I think that's a big step. That's a big change in direction.
I think the fact that, our mayor has committed to giving $500,000 to the Pedestrian Safety Review Board for the last 2 years has meant a lot. It shows a level of commitment to trying to make Macon a safer space. And then we have a ton of different groups that are committing to having more cycling in Macon, from Bike Walk Macon to You Create Macon. We have running clubs now. And so the more that we have an active community that has expectations, it begins to change our perspective of what the public infrastructure looks like.
There's also, I think, pushing for Georgia Department of Transportation and meeting with the local governmental officials, the mayor and others, to determine actually what's needed. Over the last few years, we've been meeting on a regular basis, and we were able to express what the problems were, what we needed, how much money we needed.
So we want to have that conversation keep going and building that culture, building that movement, because the only way we're going to keep seeing better streets, better infrastructure is by having a strong voice and making people visible. When we started in 2015, there was less than 1 mile of bike lanes. We now have over 12 miles of dedicated bike lanes in Macon. That means you have your own lane, your own space on the road, or you're completely off the road on a multi-use sidewalk. We do giant open streets events that attract hundreds of people. There's also 13 miles of the Ocmulgee Heritage Trail, so our river trail has greatly expanded thanks to Newtown Macon. We've also seen the county improve pedestrian facilities, so there's more sidewalks, there's more crossings.
When I left Macon and came back, I'm like, okay, it's more sidewalks. So I could tell even the bike lanes when I had not been in the downtown area for some time. When I came back, I was like, there's like little pictures of bikes on the streets for the bike lanes so they actually painted bike lanes, so I was glad to see that.
Overall, we've just seen infrastructure expand and improve for bicyclists and pedestrians. That's our greatest accomplishment. Some of our other accomplishments include advocating for Macon-Bibb County to pass some countywide policies, and we've seen the county adopt a complete streets policy, meaning all new road projects have to consider all forms of transportation. Macon-Bibb County passed a Vision Zero action plan that outlines all the steps they want to take and plan to take to get to zero traffic fatalities. And very recently, Macon passed a traffic calming policy.
And what that looks at is how we can improve traffic safety at the residential neighborhood level.
You have to change the design instead of continuously trying to change behaviors. You often need physical elements to get people to slow down. So that can be like vertical elements like trees, crosswalks. It shrinks in the street and makes you feel as a driver that you don't have enough space, that there might be obstacles that's going to come across your way. It naturally causes you to drive slower.
It works through see-click fix, so if a resident feels like there's too much speeding on their road, they can go in, do a see-click fix, and request either like a traffic sign or a speed bump or any other type of mitigation technique that we have to slow down traffic in their community.
This January 2025, through the League of American Bicyclists, so that's the national biking nonprofit, Macon was named as a bronze level bike-friendly community. Having that bike-friendly designation is huge. It's things that people look at, things that when people want to move somewhere, they look at things like this. It's taken a lot of work and we have a long ways to go, but it's good to be awarded and recognized for the work that's been going on in Macon.
When it comes to transportation and investing in ways to reconnect the community, I think it's something that's just important, and if you can do it here, I feel like you can do it anywhere.
That's what's great about Macon is people cooperate, they collaborate. There's really a spirit of community betterment that I find really important and really special.
I want to see pedestrian safety remain an important part of our budget.
I'd like to see our streets designed with every person in mind. So my vision is a fully connected network of sidewalks and of bike pathways throughout our whole city. By having crosswalks and sidewalks, it gives you your own space. By having bike lanes, it gives you your own space. Sometimes the assumption is that we want to take over the streets, and it's really that I think bicyclists and pedestrians would just like to have their own space on the streets.
So I think the overall vision for Macon Bibb, based on the 2050 plan, is to just continue to create a community that would benefit the overall quality of life for residents throughout the county.
I just want the city to think of everyone. I want everybody to be able to get around and go where they want to go, and that's what I want them to keep in mind.